Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your mothers have practically built themselves. Hello folks, welcome to Mad Dog's Adventures in Family History. And as you can tell, the kids are having a great time out here. They're on the slide, they're on the, well, they call it the fort, but it's a playhouse that has swings and a slide. And so they're having a great time out here, the grandkids are. So this piece is going to be about how I do the research that I do on the family history. So I'm a third generation genealogist in our family. There's some other genealogists too down the line that have worked over the years very, very hard on both my dad's side and my mom's side to get the information that I already now have. So it's been compiled over, well over 100 years. These stories, the information, a lot of things have been written down. So today we're going to talk about the basics of how I write it down, how I document it, goodness sakes, how I research, where I go to get information for my research. We live in a great age nowadays where we can easily access all this stuff. So stick with me and we're going to start checking out how I do family history.
So this is my grandma and grandpa Brewer. Unfortunately, I didn't know either of them because they both passed away before I was born, but I heard a lot about them from my mom and my dad. And we'll be covering a lot of the Brewer line in what we do. This is my grandfather Plant with my Aunt Polly. And he died, this was right before he died actually. He died before I was born as well, so I didn't get to know him. But the Plant line in my family is very interesting. This is my grandmother Plant. She went on to a very, very old age. This is her holding my oldest daughter shortly before she passed away. So this was... this is a golden picture of my grandmother. I really got a lot of interesting history on her line as well. So, how do we do family history? Well, the best thing to do is talk. So here was my dad. We were gathered together as a family, and we were just talking with him, asking questions, and he would relay instances from his life and things that he had done and things that he had remembered. Very important to have a tape recorder or take notes. And from those who are still living, get as much information as you can. Now here's my mom, and well, my parents had me later in their lives, and so they were older folks as I grew up. But mom would tell me stories of her mother and father and her grandparents, and so those were things I knew and grew up with. I did have a pretty decent knowledge up until 1900 on of our family, immediate family history. Another place to glean information on family history is from personal histories, diaries, notes, books, whatever that a relative has taken. My mom didn't journal a lot of things, but a few things. My dad journaled pretty much his entire life, so I have a lot of information that includes some of his grandparents and whatnot. And of course, photos. It's always good to look through old photos. Here's one from my dad that I don't even know where I got this. I don't think it was from him, but it's 3 of his sisters. So this is a great piece that, and I didn't know who these people were. Fortunately, somebody had written on the back who they were. But anytime you can get some pictures and try and find someone in the family who can identify them, that's great. This was my dad graduating high school, and this was the suit that he was in. This is another classic picture. I absolutely love this. We were fortunate enough that we had a lot of pictures in our family, and we were able to get a lot of them scanned. We're still working on them. It'll take us a lifetime to scan all the pictures, but we have a lot of the important pictures of important events and things like that. For example, this picture of my dad with his first car, which was a 29 Willys, a Willys 6, that he was very proud of back in high school. And I got some great stories from my dad and from his journal about him and his first car. Military records. Here is a story that was written about my dad and his military service. So I was very fortunate, again, that I didn't know all this information about him, but I was very fortunate to be able to find this and learn more about what he had done. And you can look up military records. There's ways of doing that to see what you can find out about whatever relative you're trying to research. Now, unfortunately, sometimes the only way we can get information about loved ones is after they pass. And you go to a funeral, you hear stories from some of the people that talk, some of the people that knew them ask questions afterwards. My dad had this memorabilia table out, which had a lot of information for people to see and read, and some things that I had kind of forgotten about. So it was wonderful to be able to see and read these things. Some things I didn't know. So, again, sometimes we have to wait till after folks pass, and if you have access to, their things, their effects, look for stories and written about their lives and their story. So, for example, here, after my dad had passed, after my aunt had passed, after my grandma had passed, we would have to go through their effects. And here is a whole bunch of books with pictures and stories and things such as that we were able to learn some amazing things that we really didn't know before. So sometimes you're able to glean information from there. Here is my Aunt Pauline and my Uncle Lael. She passed away a couple of years ago. I did a video on this. I think it was my first anniversary show or second, something like that. Anyway, there was a lot of things about her life I didn't know, because she did live far away. She was quite a bit older. But at the funeral, and this information was sent to me by my cousin, who we got talking about things, and I got some information. Here is from a newspaper clipping that talks about some of the things she did with teaching. Another great asset is knowing where somebody lived. Now, we had found these pictures I knew where one of my great-grandfathers had lived. I was able to look up the address in an old Salt Lake almanac, and poof, I drove to the area, and it looks a whole lot different today, but I was able to find pictures of his home back when he lived there. So I went to the county assessor's office, and the county assessor has some great tax records. Hey, we got to collect tax from people, right? And bingo, if you have an address of a relative or something that you want to see more information about, go to the county assessors, and you can find some great information there. Here's some very good written information about dimensions of the lot and the house, and even a drawing of the home and how big it was and where it sat on the property. And this was very helpful. And every once in a while, in fact quite often, you'll find a picture. The county assessor used to put a little chalkboard up, take a picture, and there's all of this information right there. Very, very helpful. Another good place to look is old yearbooks. If you can find an old yearbook, or sometimes they are online, sometimes they are at like the State Historical Society, which is where I found some, but I found this just within the last year or so. One of my mother's yearbooks. I couldn't believe it. This was actually published online. This one I actually stumbled across online. So now, really, really important. You get all of this information, and what do you do with it? You have to organize it. You have to put it in, and you can see this is my file that I have in my computer, and I have a bunch of different names, I have a bunch of different places, and I have a bunch of different photos that I still haven't got organized into the right files. But whether it's writings, whether it's pictures, whether it's whatever it is, it needs to be organized. Now, don't know where to start with organizing? Well, there's a person for that. This lady here, Mrs. Marietti, Gladys Marietti, runs a company called Sentimental Story. And I couldn't get her whole page here on this particular picture, but organizing photos, digitizing outdated media, telling stories. This is an absolutely fabulous resource. I'm going to put a link in the description. So if you need some help, contact her. Also, here's another great resource, forever.com. And she can help you with this. Forever is one of these places that will store your media, your pictures, videos, things like that, in a secure cloud. I don't know, it's cloud, whatever it is, but electronically for like 100 years. I mean, it's really a cool thing. And again, she can help you with that. So the last thing I want to cover is one that's extremely important. Document, document, document. Anytime you do any research, any place you go, like to the archives, and you look at a certain book or whatever, write down that you went to the archives, that you looked in this certain book. And if you find something, great, put, I found this. If you didn't find anything, say, nope, I didn't find anything. It's very important that you write down the information that you do find, because too often people will make claims about things that happened in a person's life and they're not substantiated. There's no proof to back them up. This happens quite often, and you can't always trust what you read. Even in places like Family Search, which has some great archived information about family members. There's some things there that can be contradictory. There's some things there that can be flat out falsehoods. And again, it's important to have documentation and notes that go to that documentation. So others that follow in your footsteps can help piece together the puzzle completely and accurately. Well, hey folks, thanks for joining us on Volume 1. We'll see you next time for Volume 2.